So first of all, let's get right down into it. What if you were in a situation where you're now finding out that, there's this plot, maybe a plot to buy the galaxy. But at the same time, we got opposition from the extraterrestrials who don't want us off the planet. But then there is a plan to get off the planet and like on the moon, maybe on Mars, and then at the same time. But what if this thing has been around for quite some time now to start explaining space travel, what is happening? And so we're going to go over a few things today. Instead, not to see what we see on TV and how they're flying to space and all the things that they're doing. But as you know, with Why the Big Secret, your eyes are useless when your mind is blind. We're going to think why, and we're going to also think about why the how is never as important as the why. Why are we doing all that? Why are they doing space? Okay, yeah, we got this thing to public that we want to, be the first man on the moon, but maybe there was a bigger plot at play from here, right? But at the same time, then there's people that saying, no, we're going to fight against this. And so now it kind of explains why the extraterrestrials may not want us off this earth. And at the same time, why we're trying to get off the earth and why you should be focusing, why your kids and everyone else should be getting off this planet at some point. And the question is, who owns the moon and can the moon be owned and everything else? And you probably would never wrap your head around that to say that. So we're going to go over some of these things tonight real quick. But then at the same time, we're going to do what I think we should do best, which is what you see our power word, what we're here for is to question the narrative. We have to. So if you don't question the narrative or what I call the question, then it doesn't take you anywhere. So let's get right into what I'm talking about. I was looking over some documents, and one of these things we're talking about this is coming from the Space, I think, Settlement Institute, but there's this thing already that they have already put these contractual clause together long before we've been talking about this on Why the Big Secret. Not this, but typically these conversations, and probably in some cases, some of you watching maybe before you were born. But there's already a plan to what they're going to do, right? Who owns space? Now, we already know that the extraterrestrials saying that that's their lair. This is where they come from. Earth is a project planet. We need to stay here. But obviously now our ambition as mankind and humans are saying, let's get off this planet. But then they're like, well, then if somebody gets off the planet and they go over to Mars, who owns that? Okay. So that's something that we got to think about. But there is a plan. There is a plan. So let me get started to put what they're calling this right now. This act is called the Space Homestead Act, okay? And it's an act to promote privately financed space settlements. Now, listen to that first line right there to kind of let you know why you now probably see the greatness of Elon Musk and Amazon and Galactic, the guy, everybody's trying to get to space because they're operating on something totally different than what we're operating on. And we're sitting here thinking that they're talking about just trying to get to Mars because humans need to know what's there. And that is not it. It is a bigger plot. The other definitions of this act is the fact that space settlement is a permanently occupied. So, all right, let me get back to it. So it's the Space Homestead Act. And what they're saying is whoever get there will, at this point, own the place. Right? So listen to me. What is one thing that we don't have anymore? They tell you they're not making any more land here in the world, right? You can't make any more land. Therefore, everybody continues to buy it and buy it and buy it. But now that we're going out to space, the moon, Mars, all of these places, asteroids, it's a whole different ball game when it comes down to this. So the Space Homestead Act says the definition of space settlement is a permanently occupied facility, base, or city situated at a specific geographic location on an extraterrestrial body, such as the moon, Mars, or an asteroid. So they already got this definition in this act that's been operating behind the scenes, okay? Then they're saying private entity, okay? So we're going to go over all this, and then we'll come back and question this narrative. But they said a private space company is what they're saying, a consortium of private space companies and or one or more individuals that are not controlled by any sovereign state or government. This is what they consider a private entity. So space settlement and entities will be used later on in this whole thing. Examples of a state control of space company include, but are not limited to, government agency, or another government controlled company owning or controlling an effective majority of voting shares or having the ability to select the board of directors or executives. Merely being subject to normal government regulations, however, does not make a private space company government control. So basically what they're saying real quickly in this act that's sitting around that you didn't know, I didn't really know about, is that they're already saying the government can't own Mars. They can't do it. And that means, that explains to you that there is a power above our governments, and they already put it in place that you're not going to own Mars. However, they can, encourage private entities to go to Mars or to Moon, because then if they do, then of course they got their hands in a cookie jar. So they're saying that the findings that Congress finds, you hear me? That number one, expansion of human habitat beyond Earth through the establishment of a permanent lunar settlement, a space airline, enabling ordinary people to travel there, is a normal continuing of the human drive to expand into the unknown territory, and will be of insatiable value for America and all mankind. So Congress is saying if a private company goes out there and establishes a settlement, basically, I'll get into it real quick, that they're still going to have jurisdiction over this, and therefore that settlement is going to pay taxes all the way back to Earth to the United States. Okay. So, but we already know that you got the rich people, Rockefellers, and all these people running the government. The IRS is a private and owned entity. So could these people control be so vast that they're saying that get people out there, own it, but pass rules that's saying just because you made it to Mars, you get it, it's yours, but you're going to pay taxes back here for the land and then the landlord itself, okay? So also they're saying, number two, privately financed space exploration and settlement is preferable to the taxpayer, which is you and us, taxpayer financing, because the government needs to limit its own expenditure. So what they're saying is they don't want the taxpayers to pay for the trip to Mars and to colonize Mars. Why not? Why? Because supposedly we the people, then we will own it. Then you can't control us if we own, and our taxpayer money is paying for the trip to Mars and the colonization part, right? They already got this plan. I'm telling y'all that the plan is there. Also, it says space exploration, number three, and settlement with private financing produce a new tax revenue for the United States. Space exploration and settlement. So when you get off the planet and go to Mars and get your house on Mars, you still gonna pay taxes. The system is on point, right? So let's get into this. But I'm gonna give you some outs in a minute. A new addition incentive is needed because the potential short-term profit sources are currently much too small to attract billions of dollars of private capital necessary. So now the government is saying we need to incentivize those companies, give them tax incentives. We need to give them a way to get off this planet, to get more property so that we can make more money and hence pay the people who are running the country who are not government, right? It also says the potential value of the land on the moon. This is written out. The potential value of land on the moons, Mars, and an asteroid can provide an additional economic incentive for privately funded space settlements at no cost to the government. The government saying, and we'll come back to that. Like I said, we're going to question the narrative. There is currently no international law of private land ownership in space, because most majority nations have deliberately refused to ratify the agreement governing the activities of states on the moon and other celestial bodies that was put in place in 1979, hereon called the Moon Treaty. The U.S. Senate refuses to ratify, means that the Moon Treaty provisions are not the law of the land and in U.S. courts, and therefore do not inhibit the action of a U.S. citizen or legislators. Okay. It's getting deep, right? More importantly, the framers of the Moon Treaty found it necessary to attempt to write a rule forbidding private ownership of the land of the moon, clearly confirming that such objective had not already been accomplished by the Treaty of Principles of Governing the Activities of State in the Exploration of the Use of Outer Space, which is this, including the moon and celestial bodies, okay, in 1967, known as the Outer Space Treaty, nor by the UN Resolution GARS 1962. All right, so I'm, 25 plus, no, I'm 25 times 2 plus 3. So you'll figure that out. And one of the things that you have to look at is this stuff has been in place long before we got here, truth seekers, right? All right, so let's keep going. I got 2 more pages, and then we're going to go back over these, and we're going to get freaking deep into this stuff, okay? Now, what they're saying for property rights, listen to this. No, let me back up. So it says, presumably, that it's only a matter of time until new treaties are negotiated, establishing a functional private property regimen and granting suitable and land ownership incentives for private funded space settlement. All right. The U.S. will, of course, abide by such new international law when it has ratified such a new treaty, but given the urgent need to privately fund human expansion into space as soon as possible, something must be done immediately on a provisional basis to correct the present inefficiencies into international standard on property rights in space and promote privately funded space exploration and settlements. Next, number 10, for property rights on the moon, Mars, etc., the U.S. would have to recognize natural laws and use an occupational standard rather than the common law of the gift of sovereign, because the sovereignty itself is barred by existing international treaty. U.S. courts already recognize, certify, and defend private ownership and sale of land which is not subject to U.S. national appropriation of sovereignty, such as the U.S. citizen ownership and a right to sell another U.S. citizen. Did y'all hear me? This stuff is getting put on the moon. I had to stop there, but I'm going to read that sentence again. The U.S. courts this is a document that's put together. Okay, listen to me. The U.S. courts have already recognized, certified, and defend private ownership in the sale of land and not subject to U.S. national appropriation of sovereignty, such as a U.S. citizen ownership and the right to sell another U.S. citizen, both of whom are within the United States. A deed to the land, which is actually located in another nation, U.S. issuance or document of recognition of settlements, claim land on the moon, Mars, etc., can be done on the basis of an analogous to the situation. Yeah, I know. WTF, it is getting real. So the legislation next concerns that only issuance of such a U.S. recognition and acceptance of settlements claim of private land and ownership based on the use of occupation, regardless of nationality of the owner, nothing is to be considered a claim of national appropriations nor sovereignty over outer space body or any part thereof. Right. Number 13, the U.S. does not claim the right to confer private land ownership, and the U.S. states that it's mostly definitely not making any claim of national appropriations by claiming of sovereignty by means of using occupation or other means as prohibited by outer space treaty. Now, number 4 says recognizing extraterrestrial private property. Oh, all right. All U.S. courts and agencies shall immediately give recognition and certification and full legal support to land ownership claim based on use and occupation up to the size specified in section 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3 below for any private entity that has in fact established a permanent inhabited settlement on the moon, Mars, or asteroid with a regular transportation between the settlements and Earth open to any paying passenger. All right. So we'll get back to that. Are y'all with me? Are y'all hearing me? Anybody? Let me know. So if you just join in, we're talking about there is agreements. There is already rules in place to owning property out of space. And we might just be missing out on the biggest thing in the entire world, but also trouble lies ahead, right? If it's not reeled in. Number two, for the claim of it says for a land claim to receive such recognition and certification, listen to this, the settlement must be permanently and continuously inhabited. The location and population of the settlement may change as long as they continue to be inhabited settlement with the original claim. Do you know there's private stuff? They're already sending people to the moon and asking people to go there to colonize. And we thinking we're doing it. They get ready to go control the Mars and all of this stuff. The other part says deliberate abandonment of the settlement shall be grounds for invalidating land ownership recognition derived from the settlement, but there shall be no penalty or brief unintentional absences, caused by an accident, emergency, or aggression. Aggression, meaning if the aliens come and tell you to get the heck off the fucking property, we then gonna say you don't own it no more. Aggression, what aggression is gonna happen? You settling out there, or what if somebody come and take your spot? We're gonna get into that. Recognized ownership of land under the law shall include all rights normally associated with land ownership, including but not limited to exclusive right to subdivide the property and sell portions to others, to mine any minerals, utilize resources or under the land, as long as it's done in a responsible manner which do not cause unreasonable harm to the environment or other people. See, we think about that's how we were operating in Earth, right? Here on Earth. You can buy land, you can divide it up to plots, and then people can buy houses. Did any of you think about the fact that while you're trying to do real estate here, that you need to be figuring out how to get your family off the planet to claim a whole fucking asteroid that'll make you trillionaires? Because if you can get there and live there, it's yours. But yet we're so asphyxiated. Anyway, let's keep going. All right. So the other part of this, if the requirement of the law continue to be met, all rights, privileges, and responsibilities shall be immediately transferred by the sale, lease, or appropriate means to any other private entity. They keep using entities, all right? Private companies and all of that. Well, now, as long as the required conditions continue to be met, U.S. recognition documents shall remain valid for 100 years or until the U.S. ratifies a treaty that establishes international property rights with giving comparable rewards to privately funded settlements, whichever comes sooner. The U.S. pledges to defend the recognized extraterrestrial properties by imposing appropriate sanctions against aggressors, whether it's public or private. If it pledges never to allow the sale of a U.S. citizen, so now they have to change this ordinance so that we don't get off this planet and slavery is legal somewhere else off the planet. It's Earth laws, right? But if you get off the planet, you can be a slave and there's no laws. There's no laws, right? This is real. It said, so at this point, they're saying that it pledges to never allow the sale to U.S. citizens or any extraterrestrial land. Okay, so anyway, let me bag up on it. Okay, so it said the U.S. pledges to defend and recognize extraterrestrial properties by imposing appropriate sanctions against aggressors, whether they're public or private. It pledges never to allow the sale to U.S. citizens or any extraterrestrial land which was seized by aggression. Okay, but it makes no pledge of military defense or recognize extraterrestrial properties. If after 10 years, these limits prove to have been insufficient to get privately funded settlement efforts started, Congress or some national or international authority and its delegates shall consider whether the maximum size of the claims should be enlarged, right? To give them a little more incentive. So it's saying the claimant must commit to consistency to make good faith efforts to promptly offer or arrange or for safe and reliable transportation to and from the settlement to all regardless of nationality who are willing to pay a fare to cover expenses and reasonable profit. All right, so let me keep going because I'm almost finished for us to discuss this. The claimant may not unreasonably deny land rights and the rights to transport passengers and cargo to any other safe, peaceful vehicle willing to pay a reasonable fee for the landing rights. The claimant may see appropriate standards of behavior and safety, etc., for passengers, cargo, the use of its facilities, and it may not act in an anti-competitive manner. If the demand for the transport exceeds the supply, which we know supply and demand, and the claimant is making a good faith effort to increase the availability of transport, it may give a preference to passengers and cargo offering the largest financial inducements. All right, so now we're going to get into how they're going to divide up the moon, the land, all of this stuff when these people get there and begin the process of claiming these properties outer space. On Earth, moon, the claim size, the private entity that established the first such settlement on the moon and meets other conditions shall be entered into receive full and immediate U.S. recognition of certification, claim of ownership up to 600,000 square miles in a contiguous, reasonable, compact shape that includes its base. I don't know how big is 600 square miles, but I do know it may be the size of the United States, or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe somebody can figure it out. But they're saying that whoever gets there first gets to claim 600,000 miles. All right, square miles. Now, given the greater distance, higher cost, and larger amount of available land on Mars, the private entity that established the first such settlement on Mars shall be entitled to receive full and immediate U.S. recognition, certification of its claim of ownership up to 3,600,000 square miles in contiguous, reasonable, compact shape, which includes its base. What? On asteroids, so we talked about Mars, we talked about the moon, and those are the three things out there: planets, the moon, and asteroids. They're also saying that on an asteroid, the private entity that established a permanently inhabited base on an asteroid shall be entitled to receive full and immediate U.S. recognition and certification of its claim of ownership up to 600 square miles in contiguous, reasonable, compact shape that includes its base and entire asteroid if the surface is smaller than 100 or 1 million square miles. So if it's a couple of million miles, two people can say, I got one half, you got one half. But if it's other people, now I know you might be asking yourself, what do we care about that? We're going to get to that. Also, successive claims saying no entity nor two entities which are efficiently under the same control shall receive recognition for controlling interest in two land claims at the same time. Each successive settlement on a body may receive recognition for a claim up to 15% less than the preceding one that was entitled to. An entity in control of one settlement may sell services such as transport to genuinely independent entity which establish a different settlement and make a second claim on that body, right? Concurrent claims is any event that it cannot establish which two settlements on the same body was established first, it may claim 7.5% less territory than it would have been entitled to if it was clearly the first of the two. In such case, the land claims of two settlements overlap and claimants are unable to divide the land between the two negotiations. A court shall allocate the land between the two settlements seems fitting and before recognizing the claims. I got two more paragraphs and we're done. The international relations saying that the U.S. urges other countries to adopt similar laws, and the State Department is hereby instructing them to try to negotiate a new multilateral treaty or bilateral treaties with individuals, like-minded nations may then have the same land claims land claims recognized into international law. All rights and privilege conferred by law shall be available equally to the citizens, individuals, corporation, any nation which passes the laws, ratifies the treaties, offering similar rights to the U.S. citizens. If this needs to be secure international agreement, the State Department is authorized to agree to treaties which require that all claimants must be a consortium, which include companies or citizens from different countries, and it could be required at least one of the partners in the consortium. All right, so there we go. Why are we going to have a conversation and begin the process to what I call question the narrative, right? It's important that we look at this because let's think about this for a moment. We're watching the news and we see, Jeff Bezos' rocket going back and forth. And it makes me think about Dr. Haynes, who I just did a contract with. If you didn't know, the Project Black is going to build a spacecraft. This is why I was looking into all this stuff. And not only to go look for space exploration, because he's already did it where he has technologies, patents. Some of the other companies have stole some of his work. But he was already working on a transportation company. And he was like, Roderick, so many people are trying to just go one way and get to the moon. I want to go there and back and help people go there and back. And I'm like, okay, cool. But when you start thinking about why would they doing that? Why are they having private companies trying to, remember, you got people that are volunteered to go colonize a place because they know if when they send that group there under their flag of corporation, that within 10 years, they own most of the planet. They own the planet. All right. And so, and we're talking about getting off this planet, and we're talking about interstellar, living and all of this stuff. The fix is already on for wealth, power, and all of this. And we're not focusing on that as a collective because we're still trying to focus on if a UFO is real. The other part of this is that Congress is already putting in effect, and you got to remember how our government works, right? It's no secret, but if it is, that's fine. But Congress is already understand the fact that, the IRS taxes is how the government and the people behind it make money. So they're already saying, we're going to let you go to space. We're going to let you go, your private company with your $1 billion, to incentivize you spending your money and not the government money, but we're going to pimp this thing. Yeah, I said it. We're going to let you go there, set up property, and then after 10 years, we're going to let you, have a claim on it, recognized by the United States. So now you can put the flag up that this is United States of America, no longer. And it's like, okay, we ain't worried about Earth no more. We got China, we got Russia. No, everybody go to space and get a bigger place, get the biggest of the biggest. But yet, I think about our community, the African-American community, indigenous community, or poor people, whoever, or middle class, while we're sitting here trying to buy a house, and while we're sitting here thinking the fact that maybe I'll leave this house to my children, and I'm not saying that's a bad plan, but these people are planning to go on an asteroid. And you got to go back to Morgan Stanley. I did a show 2 years ago, and they talked about the space economy. Morgan Stanley talked about the space economy is the new future and was telling all of their shareholders to get into space satellite, space tourism, space mining, all of these different areas, because that's where the new investment is, right? But what I'm shocked about is some of the terms they talk about: aggressive, meaning somebody can get there and somebody else is going to come and take their spot. I'm shocked about all of the different parts that they are talking about, but who is going to govern this thing? Another part, they talk about the space exploration settlement, private financing to produce new tax revenues for the government. So now we know the system is our tax money, but we already know the IRS and all these are private entities. So that money is being collected back to some families. And then, are they that good where they already got the game? They already putting the chips in place to own the galaxy or any new place we explore? So when I talked to Dr. Haynes, he's already was making his Blue Nebula star lines to create space transport, transporting people back and forth, which is cool if you can pay to get on there. Now, Elon Musk says one time that people are like, well, only rich people go into space. He said, no, poor people are going to go because we need workers. He said this. He said they're going to need workers. You're going to get a trip. You're going to get to go, but you're going to go after they done colonize the area. And you can't help but live where you land to go work, meaning you can't help but buy the property or landlord rent. How is this that even in the future, getting off the planet, we're still going to be subject to being renters? You know, the landlord is going to do, and we're talking about the moon, for crying out loud. Okay. And they did say they need a new additional incentive is needed because the potential short-term profit sources are currently just much too small to attract the billion-dollar companies. So the billion-dollar companies are probably getting tax incentive while we think they're billionaires, but they're probably getting $1 gazillion from the government because they want them to go. They want them to go do this land deal. They want them to ultimately go pick this up. If you found any value, and everything else, and what I'm talking about, you can hit the Cash App up there. That's how we do it here. That's how we support our show. But if you find value in what I'm doing tonight, you can send a blessing if that's what you choose, whatever value it is to you. But there's also what also kicks things out is the fact that the courts, they already recognize and certify and defend private ownership. So what 3 people right now is trying to get to the moon or Mars or whatever? Who's trying to get there? You can put that in the chat. Who is trying to get there? Obviously, somebody is trying to get to the moon, to the Mars. And why shouldn't we, as a collective, be trying to get there? And I didn't know all of this until mostly research and Dr. Haynes is sharing the undertone of things with me because of Project Black and putting together a corporation. I told y'all yesterday with shares and we're going to do this thing. You know, he already, flying cars. If you didn't know, it's going to be out 2 to 3 years. They already got, you look in the paper, they already got people building the flying cars. He's building one. He's going to turn over some of that technology for us as a group. We're going to come up like the mob financially because we're going to get ahead of the game. Yeah, it's a big dream. Some people sit here and laugh, but no. But I guarantee you it's going to be a battlefront because if they know there is a minority, and I'm using that, and that could be all us less fortunate financially people, white, black, green, is trying to get there and colonize too, to have ownership in an asteroid or part of Mars. Oh, it's going to be some fighting now. It's going to be some fighting. And like I said, it's going unnoticed. So it's got nothing to do with you. We're talking 10 years of civilization sitting there building. So even Dr. Haynes already got a life pod thing that we're going to test with the truth seekers, where we're going to do a thing where they can come out to the place and live inside this thing for a month and simulate what it would be like on Mars. And we're going to have some fun. I know I can't fit into the vehicle to test it because the payload, but somebody on our team can get in there and now you're going to get into the first flying car. We're going to do that in the spring. He already got it, It's a trip when it gets down to this. All right. But the other part of this is how it's going to go down. Definitely when it goes down from those things and everything else. And thank you all for those who did say, here's a blessing for all that you do. So I want to Thank you for sending that. Because I know everybody probably can't, but just y'all being here is good enough. All right. So the U.S. once again recognizing extraterrestrial property. So, all right. So now, but think about you being a colony and you out there trying to get this property, and the ETs roll up, and the U.S. said they're not going to defend you. You said it in here. They're not going to let everybody fight, but if you abandon it because of aggression, meaning they anticipate somebody's going to be like, no, pack your stuff up and get the hell off my planet. And then you stuck out. Now you lose your claim, but yet this is real. It's real. Now, I couldn't tell you, I wouldn't have thought about waking up in the morning and want to have a discussion about who owns the moon. And we can't even fathom that. But we got to question the narratives. You see this? This is the new brand. This is our tagline for Why the Big Secret. Question. This is my superpower word. The shirts and logo is available on our website. The hats is available on the website now. Our colors is what you see, the yellow, white, and black. Only thing is there now is our branded materials. But question the narratives. And the narrative of this is not out in public. So we don't really have to question it now. We just got to figure out how do we get in on it? How do some of you who think of investments and everything else get in on that? Now we, looking to put together, like I said, I'm getting some help with those. If you listen to me and understand incorporation laws, holding company laws, don't put in a chat because I don't read them because I'm talking, right? And when the video is over, it goes away. But if you email, go to our website and go to the contact form, that'll be better. Geospace is helping me and some stuff, but I'm saying that it is truly something that is operating right under our noses. And while we so focused on Earth, there's people out there planning to take over the galaxy, and they're just doing it by getting there. They're just going to do it by getting there. So it just really, goes into a few things. Now, another part of this where I thought was pretty weird is when they start talking about how much land and property you get for getting there. So you're talking about if you get on the moon, the Earth's moon, which we know supposedly that it's supposed to be hollow, right? The moon is not real, all of these things. But if you go, what's the contact information? If you're talking about mine, I'm just finally looking over here. You can go to whythebigsecret.com and then go to the contact us page. All right. So there you go. They haven't, Nicole works for an aerospace company. But Earth Moon, the private entity established that the first such settlement on the moon meets the other conditions of law and shall be entitled to receive full and immediate U.S. recognition and certification of the claim of ownership up to 600,000 square miles. If we were in the United States, can anybody know? Can you Google and see how many square miles is the United States? That'll at least give us a kind of a indicator of what we're talking about here. I don't know the answer. So maybe if you know it and you can tell us what is the square miles of United States of America. Okay. Anybody got that Googling? Y'all got it? But if you go to not the moon, but if you now going to go over to an asteroid or Mars, given a greater distance and higher cost, because they know that it's going to cost you more to go to Mars than it does the moon. So they're going to give you larger amount of available land. Now, who on Earth thinks that they got the right to tell you if you take your money and you build a spacecraft and you drive out to Mars and you there first and you sit there and they're saying is if you abide by our laws and then saying that we're going to say that we certify that you there, you get protection from the United States. If you don't provide, if you don't abide for our laws and you just want to say we out here, we're taking care of ourselves, we're not owned, we're free, then we can't protect you from aggressors, meaning we will allow somebody else to come over there and whoop you and take your land. Doesn't that sound like they did this before? Does this not sound like a playbook out of the past? Am I the only one thinking this way? That they're literally saying, you leave this planet, you go build some property somewhere else. All right, so the Earth is what, 3 million miles? United States is 3 million miles? Oh, okay, well then 600 square miles ain't nothing. All right, I get it now. I thought that would be pretty big. Yeah, so Tamara says, yeah, 3.7. All right, so I thought, man, so, all right. So that's a trip though, right? That they're sitting here and they're saying those things, and that is what happening. So they're saying if you're going to go to Mars, because it's going to cost more, and the private entity established the first settlement, entitled them to receive up to 3,600,000 square miles. So Mars must be huge. So, or if the United States is just 3 million, oh my God. So that is strange enough. And then on an asteroid. Now, if you know asteroids now, they actually fly in an asteroid belt. So they're in continuously have their own gravitational stuff. So a lot of companies are now talking about building spacecrafts, not spacecrafts, but hotels on asteroids or little mini satellites that are rotating. Dr. Haynes and I talk about that as well. And so, like I said, if you knew Project Black, he's going to be on the board. We're doing a board of directors. We're also going to share technology within the flying car. We're going to come up. I'm using that because we're going to get in the game, and we're still going to interview the witnesses. I mean, now it's about ready to break through workshops, and not workshops, but he wants to do workshops hoping young people or new persons that got an ideal of space travel, maybe get part of this thing, can come in and help as this, side of things begin to go. And so it's incredible. It's going to bring a lot of attention to Wild Big Secret and what we're doing, negative and positive. All right. But at the end of the day, when it's achieved, we're not talking 2 years down the road, y'all. We're talking 3, 10 years, could be 15 tops. He gave me a timeline of getting into space, but he already got rockets that'll go up miles and miles past Earth. It's already done. But the other part of this is just having the desire to do this. And I'm just so happy to be where we are, and what attracted him. If I told a story, is that we're Project Black and what we're trying to make the discovery. And if y'all remember Samuel Chung, y'all remember that story? We did an interview on, I think we did one on Forbidden Knowledge, and I made a post, some of it here. Remember, he talks about that the first people on the planet was at some point yellow and black people, and he mentioned where they came from. So I called him yesterday and I was like, hey, I'm going to talk to you about Project Black. And still, he's like, yeah, I'm a part of it. Let's go. But now it's been another dynamic added component. Dr. Haynes is going to give us access to trademarks and talent and be on the board, and we're going to build a craft to go find that planet. Now, along the way, you stop on asteroids, different places, and what if we colonize those things on the way? So this is real. And some of you might be like, okay, Rod, it's crazy, but no, it's real. It's real. But I'm sure you're talking about being excited, being part of that, being the institution or the entity that colonized. And now you got a place where we, people and everything else. So, yeah, I mean, it's incredible. So the asteroid law will be private entities establish a permanent inhabited base on an asteroid and shall be entitled to full and immediate U.S. recognition up to 600 miles. But if it's a smaller asteroid that falls under 1 million miles, then you get the whole million miles. But if it's over 1 million miles, then you only get 600,000. Still, the United States is 3 something, right? I don't know, but it's big. So you're probably talking about the size of Texas then. But still, that's a lot. And all right, so I'm gonna look into the chat. What do y'all think about hearing the fact that we probably miss out on opportunity to talking about imaginable wealth? I didn't get it when, Dr. Haynes like, do you know what a trillionaire and all that stuff could be later on down the road for your families? Okay, legacy, talking 15, 20 years, 30 years, hope to be here. But either way, thinking so big to then get into the game, from flying cars to eventually space line travel, which he has a certification for, where he's working on for the cargo, but then there's no written one for passengers yet. And it's serious. Strictly say, I sent an email, super serious and passionate about this stuff, actually doing it, a real passion. All right, so he sent an email. I'll check the email. I've had a couple of people still send emails, but I may respond to one, but if I do, I'll ask if it gets deep, hey, what's your number? I'll give you a call. And then hopefully at that point, we can talk on the phone or something, because I do email back and forth, but I don't like to email back and forth because eventually, and so DG, I got your email. You know who you are, the initials. Definitely, you gave me a lot of information. I like it. Please, I'm begging, email me again, put in a contact number for me, okay? Y'all got, and let me tell y'all why. You got to remember that I can possibly get engaged in a conversation with someone in an email that they could be just playing with me, never had an experience. And here I am pouring out to them. They laughing behind the scenes because they're joking, making it all weird. But I can sense that if I'm talking to people on the phone. I can sense they're not sincere. I can sense if they're playing pulling my legs. And then after all, I'm here. I'm very transparent. You see who I am, but I can't see you. And so I'm really challenged with that, because, not that I want to be, effed over in such a way, but at the other part of this, hopefully people are ready to come forward. So, but anyway, I got your content really good. I probably would reply one email asking for your contact, but if you still here, go ahead and send that to me. But so what do y'all think though, when we're talking about this, and especially when it gets down to this kind of stuff? I mean, I think it's kind of interesting, something we should know and think about, for sure, right? And also plan it. Like I said, we're going to start doing some presentations and information when, Dr. Haynes and you get to really hear the prodigy of his story. I mean, the story, man, this dude is a prodigy when it comes down to this stuff. I just wanted to verbalize that frustration, because I think it's important that people understand that although we're focusing on the chicken feed and the little stuff on the floor that they just pouring out there, and we're trying to, pick it up. But at the same time, they're positioning. Now, nobody knows what the extraterrestrials think about it, right? If they think that we don't need to be off this planet, then there's an intimate situation. They may turn around and say, okay, you set up a colony, we're going to come and wipe it out. I don't know. And maybe the power to be don't go. They just send some colonizers there, but then they claim that they're the one who owns it. I just say we need to get in on those things and pretty much talk about that, and pretty much from there. So anybody else got anything to say? Because I'm going to make it quick tonight. I'm just going to start talking to you, and I know we like hanging out for a couple of hours, but now I'm just trying to tone down our conversation. And the message is question these things. You got to find out why they're doing this stuff, especially when we see what's happening. So now that when we see that Jeff Bezos and we see what's the guy over at uh, whatever, Blue Ocean, not Blue Ocean. What's the other one? The space people. But anyway, not SpaceX, but it's one other one. The other space line. What's his name? Branson, Richard Branson, or whatever. But anyway, the thing about this is that when you see that these people are Virgin Galactic, that's the name. Okay, so when you see that these people out here making these plans and we're cheering them on, and then they're giving all these tax incentives, ain't none of you on this call, none of us is going to have ownership in some of this stuff. Their families. You saw they said that two people can't do it, but if two people arrive at the same time, one can claim another one. So imagine they're bringing their cousin. Now their cousin owning property. And then their other friends can own property. In one fatal swoop, they can have a computer design and say, when we get there, everybody go fix yourself at these locations. And now we own the freaking planet. Their children, unborn children, their souls, it's just infinitely wealthy. We can't stop it. You can't do anything for your kids, your children who will be in space, trying to live in space in the next 20, 30 years, because we hearing about it now and didn't even think about trying to get there too, or sending them there, or even position ourselves to get a piece of the pie. It's weird having a conversation because it sounds stupid, but it's real, and everybody's going to do it. Yeah, you can think about the squatter stuff though, right? But yeah, this is crazy. Yeah, you're right, Connecticut. Sometimes we got to now realize we're funding the super rich. They're laughing at us, and they're going to pay some of us little money and get us an opportunity of a lifetime to go to Mars. How many people before I'm talking about this were like, "I'll go to Mars," not knowing when you got there, you're under their flag, but they're owning and position themselves to own Mars. And then when they get there, they can start selling all of this land to the same corporations all over again, duplicating everything that they've already done. Okay, I know we're going to have the extraterrestrial elements. They're going to come out. They're going to be like, aliens are going to be like, no, we can't have this, right? They're not going to do it. But just to know that there's something that's been in place for 60 years, and now even more, and now they're more concerned that it's not modified. And why would they? The new people in the government is saying, how come we don't ratify this thing? But the old people saying, leave it where it is. And who are the old people? They're the old power that's in place now. They did this. You're talking from forward thinking, thought leadership type stuff, right? So they did this back in the day in the 60s, 70s, and now coming up in the 90s. They put this in place just in case. Just in case. And they're like, when we do get up there in the stars, while we having a trouble to believe there's anything else out there, they're like, forget that though. I see property. I see stars. They see property. I see a picture of the moon. They see real estate. What? We looking at the moon tonight, talking about the energy from the moon. They're out there saying we're going to get to the moon and build townhouses and own lunar properties because nobody's there. Whoever there gets it all. So that means, oh my God, I don't even want to go there. It's just ready to go. All right. Jarrell says, let me put this on screen while we talk. He said the Book of Enoch talks about owning solar systems, and there are probably families that own galaxies already. Once they bump their heads into something else, they'll know who owns it. There you go. And think about it now. that civilizations was here long before, and you might be a descendant in own part of Earth. In own part of Earth. I'm serious. But anyway, like I said before, it's real, it's happening, it's something for us to look at. And the challenge is what it is. Thank you, DG, for giving me your number or give you a call. That's what I'm talking about. See, when people respond like that, that's what makes this thing good to go. Yeah, thank you. But I'm saying now, go back to it, is why it is not talked about, and yet the public is sitting there thinking, oh, they're just going to. So what I'm finding out, the FAA have not cleared what they call passenger certification. You can only get a cargo certification. And a cargo is fine, so that means you can carry equipment with people in it to claim this stuff. So you mark my words right now. 15 years from now, 10 years from now, there's going to be people selling property on Mars from Earth. We've seen it in a movie. You can buy property on Mars. Look at this. And we see it in the movies and we think it's a joke, but that's reality. That they're going to be selling passenger tickets for you to get off the planet. Now, there's another people say get off the planet because of existential level events. That's cool. But still, if we all had to get off this planet and go somewhere and land, somebody else is owning everything. You know? I don't know. All right. So that's what I want to say from there. That's really what I want to talk about. So I'm really done. I'm really done. But if some of you say you want to help out with some of the stuff we're going to be doing, if you say you want to do it in the chat, I can't. Now I'm looking, but it scrolls constantly. And then when the live stream is over, it's gone. But yeah, mining asteroids is going to be it. So we're going to do a lot of that with Dr. Haynes. We're going to put ourselves in position to do that. Why not? So it's a beautiful thing. Yeah, you're right. You can't sell property on Mars until someone claims ownership and physical presence. And how many of us can afford to go to Mars? Well, so we think. We think we can't, but you're correct. That's how they got the system set. But we can go as a collective. We can go as a corporation. Listen to me. We can go as a collective with technology, go as a corporation, and all of those ownership shares of us going to a property, claiming our spot works. It really does. And maybe it's a bold initiative, but it can work. It can work. Especially partnering with, Dr. Haynes, who already got the technology, patents, and all that, and transferring them over to us to work with it too simultaneously or at the same time. It could work. It's a big, bold initiative, but I'm not going to not try it. And then next thing you know, my future generations got me up on a wall, and then like, this dude had vision. All of us got vision. All of us have opportunity. We just thinking small, and we got to think big like they're doing. And opportunities, who knows? Yeah. Yeah, they're going to stick a flag on Mars, and you definitely believe that. That's going to happen. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to get ready to get out of here. That was your hour dose. I'm just going to try to make our shows a little shorter, get to the point. Like tomorrow, we may go through our cards. So now Freaky Friday can go on forever. But during the week, we're going to get in, get out really quick. And then I got to walk the dog who loves me like a dog. He's been barking. He's ready to get out. So I take him out for a walk before we go to the house. And yeah. And yep, he's a dog. He loves me. He be like, All right. All right. So I love each and every one of you, as you know. Let's get ready to get out of here and do what we're doing. Yeah, we'll do some trivia tomorrow. Yeah, we'll do it. All right. All right. So hug your loved ones, hug your friends, strangers, whatever you want to do. But now let's think big. With Project Black Story, start reaching out to people, having them contact me because we're getting ready to do our first live event in about the next 3 or 4 months, maybe 4 months. I already got about 10 stories of experiences. I want about 15, 20 on stage. Then you're going to hear some emotional stories. Some of these things are really divine. So we're going to be working on that. Probably the first event, probably in Dallas area because I'm here. But eventually we'll move to different areas so we can do that. So we're going to be doing that as well. Yeah, don't forget, hit the like button, share. Start sharing these stuff too. We need people to begin to understand where we are. And thanks for the super chat right here to Frank. And once I said, if you find value, there's the Cash App up there. That will work. So with that being said, it's been a plum pleasing pleasure as well as a privilege. Roderick Martin, and I will see y'all tomorrow night. It'll be on time, 8 o'clock. We'll be on time tomorrow.
Why did Ruby shoot Oswald? Was there a conspiracy?
In a world shrouded in darkness and obscured by deception from the big secret keepers, a burning question ignites in the hearts and minds of truth seekers. Why? Let's dive into the abyss of the unknown. Challenge the limits of our understanding.
Thanks for the super chat, Jarrell. I just want to know, thank you. Because, I'm so happy to get the super chats from y'all and a couple of people that text. So I just cut down the end and cut it off, give him some gratitude. But thank you for the super chat. I'll start it over. Good night, y'all.
Why did Ruby shoot Oswald? Was there a conspiracy?
In a world shrouded in darkness and obscured by deception from the big secret keepers, a burning question ignites in the hearts and minds of truth seekers. Why? Let's dive into the abyss of the unknown. Challenge the limits of our understanding.
This bizarre sequence of double killings raised great questions. Who actually fired the shot that killed Kennedy?
Pierce the veil of secrecy.
Cattle found dead and the manner of their deaths are a real mystery.
Anyone who is concerned about lead in the drinking water in Flint.
And venture into the realm of conspiracies and extraterrestrial evidence.